Hey, yo, Jay, I messed up big time
Why?
because I try to get over to my coffee cup here and drink some. It's empty. I started the show on an empty coffee cup, so I don't know how much energy I'm going to have. It's probably going to be pretty low. I don't know. You always get me lit, though, so we'll see what happens throughout the show. It's Tuesday. We're back. Jason. Wow, Andrew would have loved I called you Jameis.
Jameis.
Jeez. Jason was out there in Mobile, Alabama, having a blast. Great time. I definitely had all the FOMO I possibly could in that span of time. So we didn't do a show last week. It had nothing to do with the NFC Championship game. My guy was busy, but we're
Wait,
back
the
here
what?
now.
The what?
I don't know. There was some NFC Championship game that happened in between time, but we're back here now. Tuesdays. You guys know the schedule. Please like, subscribe, comment with us throughout the show. You already know I'm about to throw those up on the screen if you bring that fire. But Jay, how you doing? How's Everly? How's everything going?
It's good, man. It's good to be home. Missed you, Leo. Yeah, Senior Bowl week was a lot of fun. Still digging through these prospects. It's really hard to look at everything, look at every player that's going on, and realistically what the 49ers need, I think, more than anything, is the hardest part. So offseason starts now, unfortunately. The 49ers are not playing in some game that doesn't matter on Sunday. I'll probably just clean up the house and stuff. I probably won't even do anything else like on Sunday. There's not really much to do. But yeah,
I
here we
thought
are. Huh?
I thought it was a concert that just happens to have a football game
Well, I was
sandwiched
gonna,
in.
I was gonna say, you get a chance to see Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, Dr.
Hmm.
Dre, Mary J. Blige, and then some other guy or whatever, who like raps and people like. But yeah,
Uh, so if you're the real Aponte, please stand up. Please stand up.
please,
Okay, that's the last time I'm ever gonna do
no,
that bit.
no,
Never again.
no,
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 man.
no,
Um,
man.
so basically, I titled this video, Where Will the 49ers Trade Jimmy Garoppolo? And it seems like a tiresome subject, but it seems like something that's going to have resolution pretty soon. Remember, it was Senior Bowl week, end of January, when Matthew Stafford was traded from the Detroit Lions to the we don't want to talk about them. And so with this Jimmy Garoppolo situation, it's so fluid at the point where we could wake up any day, as it happens to be on the West Coast time. It's going to be at 5 a.m., of course, where we're still sleeping in probably. And Jimmy Garoppolo has been traded to so and so and so. So we talked about it enough. It's gonna happen. The way Jimmy Garoppolo had his presser, it's not something I'm putting on a tinfoil cap on. The guy alluded it to himself. The way he talked to the media, shouted out the fan base that he had great memories here. The comebacks at Levi's, the comebacks on the road. So it's going to happen. I don't want to be completely dismissive on the subject and act like it's legit the elephant in the room. So we got to cover it now. Unfortunately, we already did a lot of talking about it, but it's here, so we got to talk about it again. Give me the most, or just create a destination for Jimmy Garoppolo, as well as you guys in the comments. Create that destination. Obviously, something logical. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to go ahead and get traded to the Arizona Cardinals because Kyler Murray unfollowed the Cardinals on Twitter, or excuse me, Instagram, and deleted everything. The dude's staying there. Plenty of players have done that when they want a new deal with their team. So it's kind of just like, oh, scaring you guys. What are you going to do now? Give me that So obviously, logical destinations here. Where are you going to get
So
trade them off to?
I'll give you two, and there are no real surprises.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh and Washington. But why I say Pittsburgh was because Mike Tomlin was walking around the sidelines on practice in the Senior Bowl. Dusty Gold. Yeah, I'll tell that story again for anybody who missed Sprint Right Option podcast as to what happened with that,
Mm-hmm.
referring to that. But yeah, Pittsburgh. So it looked like appreciated you. I mean, it looked like right now, he was there scouting his offensive line that he needs to build, but also he had a 45-minute discussion with Malik Willis.
Oh.
And for me, Malik was clearing away the best quarterback in Mobile. And if he is looking at Malik, he's looking at Malik with the idea that there will be a veteran starting in front of him, not
Mm-hmm.
immediately going to Malik, right? So there's one logical destination because Mike Tomlin is not going to be a part of a rebuild. It'll be the similar situation where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be in front of a rookie, and they continue to work towards being a playoff team and win games. And he's very capable of doing that, especially when you consider how that offense works. Washington's intriguing as well, too, just because we don't know the severity of Ryan Fitzpatrick's injury.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor Heineke is a nice story, but I talked to some people down there in Washington. They're not really too big on him, so that there's an opening there as well, too. The reason that I dismiss like the Buccaneers is because Bruce Arians wants to throw the ball down the field. And I'm not trying to disrespect Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's clear that that's not what's going to happen. I mean, he tolerated Jameis Winston throwing for 5,000 yards, 30 and 30. That's fine, but I would never mistake Jimmy Garoppolo for that type of quarterback. And, for all the people that say, well, they are a quarterback away, there's still going to be a drop off no matter what it is from Tom Brady to somebody else. So I can see a scenario where Jameis Winston goes back there. He learned a little bit with the Saints. He's a free agent. He can go right back. They can throw the ball again down the field, and they have a defense as long as he reins it in. That's a very big possibility because I don't see him going back to New Orleans, especially without Sean Payton there. So it's less about, does Jimmy want to go to the Bucs, and more that I don't think Bruce Arians is going to mold his style to him, because no matter what you want to say about Brady, it is about precision and timing, but he still throws the ball down the field. And that's something that Bruce Arians wants to do as much as he can. He lifted it to Brady. I don't know if he's going to do that for Garoppolo. So Pittsburgh and Washington that's my long-winded response for either of those. It just feels like Pittsburgh's a little more likely at this point, just because the way he was talking with Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett or something like that. One of those guys would be somebody that it would be advantageous for them to sit a year.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's two things caught my attention there. Jameis Winston possibly going back to the Buccaneers because of the downfield passing attack. Does that now open up a spot for the New Orleans Saints? Because when you think about it, with the New Orleans Saints, their defense is going to be elite. Top 10 defense year in, year out. They're going to be above average. That's what Jimmy Garoppolo needs when he's a quarterback. When you look at their offense, they have an Alvin Kamara. I'll go ahead and wait on the legal troubles. Who knows if the guy's going to have to miss time. You know how the NFL works with those kind of situations. So as of now, I'm going to list Alvin Kamara. Then you got Michael Thomas, who with Sean Payton out the door now, looks like he may come back. He may not force his hand out of that organization. You have Callaway, who shown flashes, like he's not the best receiver or even a wide receiver too that you feel comfortable with, but he's shown flashes. You have a Deontay Harris, who's could be a really cool gadget player with his speed. Just one screen pass away could take him to the house. So there's a little bit of pieces with New Orleans. And if Jameis leaves that situation, what stands out to me, it's okay, if Jimmy Garoppolo has to miss time, do they have a quarterback that at least can spot start 2 to 3 games?
Trevor Siemian, baby.
Yes. Well, they also have the other guy that they paid that can spot start 2 to 3 games. So they have that situation there for New Orleans. It just comes down to, do they want to give up the draft capital? Pittsburgh, I think that's an obvious situation for Jimmy Garoppolo. It seems like Pittsburgh fans aren't that big on it because you have guys in the AFC like Justin Herbert, obviously Joe Burrow, who's in their own division, Lamar Jackson in their own division, Pat Mahomes. Like, AFC is stacked with quarterbacks, and then you're going to go up with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, it doesn't sound sexy, but you have an MVP candidate year in, year out with TJ Watt on that defense line. That defense is good from defensive line all the way to the back end secondary. Let's see if they retain Joe Hayden. They got rid of a few pieces that were questionable last year with Steven Nelson. So we'll see what they do within the front office there. But you do have weapons out on the outside. You know them, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Najee Harris, who I love at running back. So they have pieces there for Jimmy Garoppolo as well. That makes sense. My only concern with them is if they do take one of those young guys, now they're essentially investing their first 2 picks in probably a second round for Jimmy and then a first round pick for one of these other guys for 2 quarterbacks, and only one of them's going to play. So I find that a little tough.
Sounds like somebody we know. Sounds like a team we know. I mean,
sounds like a team we know. Absolutely. I'm not going to throw that out of the equation of them doing that, but it just seems a little tough. They are a win now team, so if they decided to do that investment, it's not outrageous. They don't have to fill the whole team tremendously. Like, yeah, they like any other team in the NFL. They have pieces of their offensive line that they need to fix. They have pieces here and there within their secondary that they need to fix. So that's every team in the NFL. So it wouldn't be too shocking that they feel comfortable with their roster to go ahead and make that investment. Like you said, the 49ers felt comfortable, so that's why they did it. What do you think about the Denver Broncos, though? Like, is that a destination that you could kind of create, or, they do have Teddy Bridgewater that they could probably bring back on a cheaper deal?
I mean, when you look at Garoppolo and Bridgewater, they're in a tier, but Garoppolo's better than Bridgewater.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
let's not get it twisted. It's just how much of an upgrade does he
Hmm.
bring for you to send assets for him? I just feel like if Denver's going to make a splash for anybody, they're going to try to make a big move and try to swing for Aaron Rodgers. Who knows if that'll happen? But
Hmm.
in my opinion, the Bridgewater Garoppolo tier, they're in the same one. It's just Garoppolo's at the top of that tier and Teddy's at the bottom of it. So how much more of an improvement is it for Denver to send assets for Jimmy Garoppolo? Sure, it's a fit, but I don't know, man. That one's the one that kind of shocks me, or not shocks me. It's just I find it hard to put together, just because they have a guy who can operate the offense similarly, not better, similarly. Like Jimmy's better. Jimmy is better. I'm gonna say it again because somebody's gonna yell at me. Jimmy is better, but it's just how much better. Like that's the point.
Yeah, that that was something when it was talked about with Teddy Bridgewater and the 49ers last offseason. I was like, come on, like Jimmy Garoppolo deserves more
So yeah,
respect
let's
than
stop
to be in the
disrespecting
same
now.
like he deserves
Yeah.
more respect than to be in the same sentence with Teddy Bridgewater. Like Teddy Bridgewater can't even hold his water. I would love to hold Jimmy Garoppolo's water, but I can't either. But I love this comment right here because this is low key true. Like from Frank Parnell. Jimmy going to cost a team a first round pick and a restructured contract in a 3 year, $100 million range with at least 25 million due to guarantee, but more like 50. So that's a lot. I don't know if Jimmy's going to get a 3 year, $100 million
But anyone that
deal
takes
because
him's
that's
gonna
a
have to
lot.
they're
But
gonna have to extend him, anybody who takes him.
this is the case for a first round pick. You trade Jimmy for a second. What quarterback can a team get that's a starter day one that's going to help your team get to the playoffs with the second round pick? What other quarterback is going to do that? Whether in the trade market, whether it's in the draft, what other quarterback's going to do that? No one in free agency is obviously going to do that. So what quarterback's going to do that for you? The only other leverage these teams have against the Jimmy Garoppolo is, oh, you need to trade him. You need to trade him. So you have to take this second round pick because you're not getting it. That's the only leverage other teams have on them. But 49ers, they're the ones with the piece. And sometimes you overpay a little bit. You're the only ones with this piece to where you go, okay, if you really want it, give me that first, and we'll end discussions with any other team, and he's yours. But there is no other quarterback available that's going to take a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers at a 10-11 win mark into the postseason than Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't find that anywhere else on the market. Obviously, you have Aaron Rodgers out there, but he's going to cost a whole lot more than just one first round pick. You have Russell Wilson that may be on the market. He's going to cost a whole lot more than just one first round pick. So that's where the 49ers do have some leverage, is because you're just going to hit the teams with, where else can you get this guy? Like
Yeah,
who else is going to give you that value at quarterback?
and that's why everybody went so hard on the quarterback class last year, is because they knew the quarterback class that was going to be coming out this year, and that was smart. I mean, any one of the top 5 quarterbacks that was taken in last year's draft would be the number 1 pick this year in this draft, and I don't even think that's a stretch to say that any of them. And you might even be able to throw Davis Mills if you think about like what he did in the actual NFL. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all of that needs to be taken into account. That's why when people say Jimmy's stock is down, is it? Because what are you going to find realistically that isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg? Or are you going to bank on one of these guys, which I'm not too big on? I saw an argument about Malik Willis versus Carson Strong. I don't really think that's much of a discussion at this point, just because of what I saw. But who knows? I could be wrong. I'm not a master evaluator. It's just from what I saw in Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So this class, it's okay, but last year's class, though, that's why the 49ers went and did all that. One of those 5
Yeah.
guys, anybody would have been lucky to have.
Yeah. But I think Pittsburgh kind of makes the most sense, like you alluded to. It once again, if Jimmy Garoppolo does have to miss time, it's obvious factor. That I think that's probably why the 49ers won't get a first round pick. They do have Mason Rudolph. I know people don't in Pittsburgh don't want to hear that, but Mason Rudolph has a winning record at 5-4-1. It's slightly a winning record, but it is a winning record. If Jimmy Garoppolo has to miss a week, you have someone that has started 10 games in the NFL and has a winning record doing so. So he can spot start you a game. He's just someone you don't want starting all 17 games. So Pittsburgh is a good situation there. Or like you said, they take one of the rookies like Malik Willis in the first round. He could probably give you a Trey Lance situation where he could spot start you a game, and I think that's the most logical situation for Jimmy Garoppolo. I know teams have their cap situations; they may not have enough, but a lot of people like to say that the cap is a myth. And if they want to go ahead and go trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, restructures can be done, things could be moved, and all of a sudden you have money that you didn't have before. It's kind of like when you get a payday loan. Um, uh, when you need a little bit of money, you go out there and get a payday loan before your next paycheck hits. You're going to pay for it eventually, but for the meantime, you could get that chunk of money. And it's kind of similar with this cap space here.
And thank God that the cap is going to explode in 2 years. There's ways to finagle things, and the cap is going up because the NFL was back in business. So you have to keep all that into account. And yeah, I wouldn't get too bogged down into what the cap numbers are for this year because all that stuff can be rearranged. Things can be pushed to signing bonuses. Things guarantees can be pushed to other places. You never know who's going to be on the move with certain teams. So right now in February, it's hard to talk about what a team's cap situation is going to be when you don't know who they will be letting go. You don't know who they'll be bringing in at this point. And when you think about the way that you can maneuver money in year to year and then the cap increase the year after, I don't think that that's as big a talking point, especially if a team is ready to compete and they're willing to make it happen to have a guy like that try to lead them into a playoff run.
So I hear you, Bay Area baller. I do believe the cap is real. That's why we've seen guys like DeForest Buckner go up. Oh, sorry. Yes, DeForest Buckner is no longer a 49er. That's why we've seen guys like him being shipped off, but we've also seen other teams work the cap and have these kind of players that they do on their roster. Like look at the Dallas Cowboys, for example. They restructure every damn offseason. And they're able to have a high-paying Dak Prescott, high-paying Amari Cooper, high-paying Ezekiel Elliott, high-paying Tank Lawrence on the defensive line. So there's things that can be done. You're obviously not, it's not like the NBA where you're going to have 4 superstars, and which would be in the NBA, that would be 80% of your roster or starting lineup being superstars. 80% of your starting lineup's not going to be superstars in the NFL. But there is things that can be done to open up cap space. Let's go ahead and since we're talking about cap space, let's talk about something that I think is crucial to the 49ers and someone they desperately missed this playoff run. It's what's more likely, that Raheem Mostert signs with the Miami Dolphins or that he signs with the San Francisco 49ers?
I think it's that he comes back actually. When you look at guys, and maybe I'm just viewing this because we analyze the 49ers and we're fans of the team, but do you remember guys being like who have a free agent deal coming up that while they were injured would be on the sidelines, be pulling for their guys the entire time? It's again the human element, right? Jason Verrett talked about, I wanted to come back because these guys gave me a chance and I wanted to bet on myself, and he said a lot of glowing things about the regime. Who's to say that Raheem Mostert doesn't feel the same way, especially since the 49ers were the only team to utilize him in that way? And look, I love Raheem Mostert, but for him to be successful, I think he needs to stay with Shanahan. And I think he comes back. I really do. Again, he doesn't have to be anywhere near the guy that he was in terms of speed, but that one cut and speed runner is still going to be great, and he can still do damage. And it'll also, it behooves them to do that because it lightens the load on Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. And he can still, in a 1-year deal, execute and be very good. I think it's more likely that he comes back. And when you look at the bunch of backs that they have in Miami, I don't know where he fits, like Myles Gaskin and Salvan Ahmed and Malcolm Brown, and they like to use a bunch of guys over there. I would suspect that Mike McDaniel does the same thing. So we'll see. But I think that just based on the human element and based on the way that he speaks about this organization, the way that his actions have kind of spoken for themselves in terms of how much he loves his guys and he loves being there, that I'm just going to say the sentimental value would allow him to make certain amounts of money. Maybe it'll be something where it's, he has to hit certain criteria to get a certain amount of money. But if he bets on himself, we've seen other players do that for this team, and I wouldn't be shocked if he does. I think you're on mute.
I am on mute. Thank you. One thing that should be noted with Raheem Mostert is he was a team captain this year that was selected by his teammates. And two, I remember during the whole COVID situation when that thing was sparking up, one of the guys that Shanahan went to was Raheem Mostert. So not only he's seen as a captain on the team, he's seen as a captain in Shanahan's eyes as being a voice of the locker room. And we've seen before when Shanahan loves a guy, Shanahan will ride with the guy, a la Tom Compton, Jordan Reed, Trent Williams, plenty of others. When he loves a guy, he'll ride with that guy. And what's more likely, I would say the 49ers for now. For now, I think Mike McDaniel can go over there to Miami, and he may want to pull of Raheem Mostert and pay Raheem more than the 49ers want to table. And a guy like Raheem, who's been a journeyman his whole career, I don't even think he's made a $5 million salary in a given season. And if the Miami Dolphins may want to go out and pay him a little more in his home state where he could have been a pro surfer, I think that's kind of ideal for Raheem in that situation. And when you look at the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel, they have those other names, like you said, Salvin Ahmed, Myles Gaskin. One guy you left out, I'm kind of disappointed, Mr. Fantasy, Duke Johnson, because he had that 1 week where he just blew it up.
Duke's not coming back. That's why I left him off. He was just a practice squad guy, and look what happens when he balls out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did a workout with 49ers before that, blow up game happened. So when you're looking at that, they kind of have guys, but Raheem Mostert would be that guy for the Miami Dolphins. And so when you look at that situation, they were 30th in the NFL in rushing last year. And for whatever reason, they still managed to go 8-1 in a stretch with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. 8 wins, 1 loss.
Brian Flores.
Yes, a lot of that had to do with Brian Flores, but that's also the 30th in rushing offense, and they still did that. So that shows you that Brian Flores should have never been fired in the first place. But secondly, it's if Mike McDaniel could get this offense to a top 15 rushing attack, it's very likely. Now, I don't expect an 8-1 stretch with Tua at quarterback. I don't think that happens very often, but it's very likely that they can go in a 6-4 stretch, 7-3 stretch, those kind of situations if you have a top 15 rushing attack. And I think Raheem Mostert can elevate you to that situation because he's a home run hitter. This guy is like, because of his availability, he's probably one of those players that can hit 30 home runs in the season, but then bat you 225 just because he's not available. He's like that in a baseball situation. So you may hear about him, Luke Voigt, maybe.
Baseball's not being played, bro. That's a lockout. Yeah, that's not a real sport.
True. That's
true.
You're
gonna have to figure out something else to do with your time in the summer, bro.
No, I need to go to the ballparks and have beer and be under the lights Friday nights. That's where I have tickets for every Friday night game. That's where I want to be.
For which team?
And for why are we talking baseball?
Oh, okay.
Why are we talking baseball?
I'll let it slide. Keep going.
Yeah. So when I look at the Miami Dolphins, I could see them being a little more desperate in wanting to get Raheem Mostert in the building. We'll talk about Anthony Lynn here in a little bit. With Anthony Lynn, it looks like you may have more of a Trey Sermon friendly system. Obviously, you had Elijah Mitchell, what he did last year. Who's going to be your third running back? Is that Deebo Samuel as your third running back? You still have the rights to JaMychal Hasty, so maybe he's your third running back. But I do see Raheem Mostert being like, Mike McDaniel has to be salivating if he could get Raheem Mostert in that building.
Yeah, I mean, but you just have to wonder, again, can he hold up? And that's where I think the whole situation with the 49ers works. A little Elijah, a little Mostert, a little less Deebo, still having that home run hitter ability. But I think overall what's going to happen is he's going to he's going to choose the place that he's comfortable. So that's what I'm going to bet on. I'm not betting on anything that I know, gut instinct, anything like that. I just think that he loves it here. And remember that this is the team that really, really was the only one who really gave him a shot to shine. And I just think that so much of what Shanahan does is not taking anything away from Raheem Mostert, but a lot of his success has to do with the system and being able to work so well in it because he is phenomenal for it.
Let's talk about this one. John wrote down, I think McDaniel will try to bring the same run game to Miami. I think so too. Might try and poach Lincoln Tomlinson since they have the cap space. Ooh, what do you think about that? Let me just switch it up. Lincoln Tomlinson, more likely that he'll be a 49er or a Dolphin.
It just depends on what he's going to be getting because, I mean, the difference between a good and a great guard is $10 and $15 million. So how do you view him? How do other teams view him? We don't know what the market's going to say. I hope so, but that's why I've kind of been identifying guards in the Senior Bowl and trying to go through the process because I think it needs to be addressed one way or another, whether it's right or left guard, something like that, even though Tomlinson doesn't miss games. But it's really going to depend on what he wants to make. If he's cool with 10, then he might be able to stay with the 49ers. If he gets offered 15, I think that's where he goes and he walks because that's what a great guard is actually like worth on the market. And yeah, he's definitely going to bring the run game to Miami because I mean, when you look at the teams, the Washington Commanders, the Atlanta Falcons, everywhere that he's been with Kyle Shanahan, they've run the shit out the ball. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that it was going to change in any way, and I think that's exactly what he wants to do, especially when you consider the quarterback position and how Tua still needs to develop a little bit more, and you take some stress off him with the run game as well.
Ooh, Frank is not a big fan of Tomlinson. He says he's a dime a dozen journeyman NFL guard. Let him. I don't think so.
Frank.
I don't think so. I think Lincoln. When you look at the difference between Lincoln Tomlinson and a Daniel Brunskill, I think you could say Daniel Brunskill's a journeyman guard in the NFL. Maybe he's someone that you may not want to extend and go ahead and say that. But with Tomlinson, I think Tomlinson didn't give up a pressure. I wrote it down. He didn't give up a pressure until every 23 pass blocking snaps. There's a lot of games where the 49ers won't even throw 23 times. So there are situations where he's not giving up a pressure in a game. Compared to a Daniel Brunskill, it was every 16 snaps. So Tomlinson is severely better than Daniel Brunskill. And what he also does in the run blocking game, that I'm just speaking on the pass game alone, what he does in the run blocking game, you have the continuity with Trent Williams. They've spent 2 years together now. So that's something you would like to keep together. It basically just comes down to at what cost? At what cost do you keep that down together? How many do you want to keep together the continuity within this offensive line? Because you are going to have Mike McGlinchey coming up on a new contract at the age 29 season, which is crazy because he seems like so young and fresh, yet he's going to hit free agency at 29 and Lincoln Tomlinson's hitting free agency this year at 30. It's literally one age difference apart. That's just completely wild. But I believe McGlinchey was about 24 his rookie year or something. So he was an older rookie in the NFL. Actually, Truth said it right here. He said, let go McGlinchey and re-sign Tomlinson. You can't really just, the thing is, what are you going to let go McGlinchey at? I don't want to go down that dark tunnel because it would have to be a trade. Who's going to give up capital for,
you got to find out,
quad injury, which is an injury that players come back to 50% of their 50-50. Normal self. So it's just too many ifs out there.
It's a 50-50 chance that he'll even play again.
Yes, that's what it is. 50-50 chance that he'll even play again. So it's just a dark tunnel in February. Let's wait for that conversation in June or maybe even May post-draft. But it's a really dark tunnel for McGlinchey right now. And since we're talking about the offensive line and the run game, Raheem Mostert, give me a word for Anthony Lynn joining the 49ers staff.
Impressive. And that's the first thing I thought. I mean, that should have been your first clue that Mike McDaniel was gone. Mm-hmm. But you're replacing Mike McDaniel now with an assistant head coach. And whether they give him the OC title, it really doesn't matter. Kyle's the one who calls the plays. I don't really think it's something that's that necessary. I mean, a lot of people wanted Pep Hamilton for the development of Trey Lance, but I love it. I mean, respected coach in the league, head coach, coached the Chargers, coached the Bills. And when you look at what happened in the run game, I mean, he was a running backs coach with Buffalo. He was promoted to OC, I believe, over Greg Roman. And then he took over, I believe, for Rex Ryan. And every time that he did, the running game got better. Shady McCoy had some of his best time. But what everybody should be excited about is Tyrod Taylor probably had his best time in the league as a quarterback under Anthony Lynn. And he was able to put him in positions to win. So you have to hope that that sort of thing will happen with Trey Lance. Obviously, we know that Trey Lance's skill set is much better than Tyrod, but we're talking about the mobility factor in the run game. I think it was a beautiful fit. And I think that it was one I didn't really see coming. There was rumblings in Detroit that he and Dan Campbell weren't getting along, but I loved it. But that was my first clue that, right? I mean, it wasn't really a clue. It felt like they pretty much let you know that Mike McDaniel was going, but I loved it. I think it's an impressive move.
Yeah, I think it's a impressive move as well. And I'm always going to be a fan of having head coaches on your roster as long as it wasn't a complete dumpster fire as a head coaching job. And with Anthony Lynn, I don't think it was a complete dumpster fire in a scheme. It seemed more like it was just management of the game, management of, not starting Justin Herbert week one and trying to start a Tyrod Taylor week one. It was more sort of the management thing with that of managing an NFL roster. But if you could throw in an Anthony Lynn and say, focus here on the run game, and I think this is where it could really take off. He's had success in multiple stints, and it's even, to me, it's beyond the run game, because when you look when he was at the Chargers for 4 seasons, they had the top 10 passing offense in all 4 years, and that was with 2 quarterbacks. That was with Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. So it just shows that flexibility. What they were able to do when he was the OC in Buffalo, they had a really good rushing game. I think it was a slight stint as OC there. And then, so it's this guy, he's had success in the league, didn't have so much success as a head coach. He did have a 12-4 season where they beat the Chiefs with that crazy 2-point conversion, not in OT, but late in that fourth quarter there in Kansas City. So he's had success. I think possibly joining with Kyle Shanahan, it shows me someone who humbled down and wants to be back at a head coaching gig. And because he was an OC with the Detroit Lions, but it's you understand the territory. You have an opening with Kyle Shanahan. Go take that opening with Kyle Shanahan, and you're not going to be calling plays. You're not that OC. Instead, to me, it shows that, he's humble, he's hungry, and he wants the best opportunity for success. And I think it was a smart decision, because a lot of 49ers Twitter was saying Pep Hamilton. And if the 49ers reach out to Pep Hamilton and offered him an OC, that was a possible situation that he could choose the 49ers as well over Houston, because it's a better situation.
Right. And if Anthony Lynn stays 2 years under the 49ers and gets a head coaching job, guess what that means? More comp picks. So,
Exactly.
I mean, it's win-win. I mean, I think that Anthony Lynn is far from being done in this league as a head coach candidate. So, makes sense. And again, 49ers have like a Pro Bowl roster of coaches, man. I mean, they promoted 2 guys to head coach. They'll probably have a third next year with DeMeco Ryans, and he's just going to add on to that and just be able to be, as we say with players, plug and play.
Absolutely plug and play. With this, it gets me excited, because with this Anthony Lynn ground game, what they may try to do there, it also shows to me that Kyle's flexible. To where with Anthony Lynn, it's just more of gap schemes rather than zone scheme. So to me, it shows Kyle Shanahan's flexible within his philosophies, and he looks at trying to get an advantage in any way. And he understands what he has with Trey Lance, Trey Sermon, Aaron Banks, and wants to exploit their best traits as players. And that's what really gets me excited about this hiring as well.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, that's a good thing too, because a lot of people were scared about Banks and Sermon and everything. But how do you know that wasn't the plan, to have them all be deployed with Trey Lance at the same time? So
Yeah, it's you can't really, complain too much if they end up being, hell quality starters in the league, right? It's what would you prefer, day one starters or quality starters? I would prefer quality starters in the league no matter how it comes. And honestly, the 49ers had guys at those positions that can start right away. So if you do have those guys like a Daniel Brunskill, if he was just fit better this year for this type of scheme, then cool. But if Aaron Banks is going to fit better next year with certain plays that they want to do for Trey Lance, then cool. Like I don't instantly react. You got to wait and see. One that you would have been right on if you instantly react is drafting Jalen Hurd over Terry McLaurin. I had to get you. I had to. It was right there on the tee for me, man.
I don't care. I didn't hear you.
Is Lynn considered offensive coordinator?
Not yet.
No, I think maybe next season. Maybe next season, he could possibly be promoted, kind of like the Mike McDaniel route.
Right.
He could
OC's a
possibly be
title.
that, but he's also an assistant head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So assistant head coach, offense coordinator, you don't usually see the two. When you're a coordinator of a unit, the only time you're really assistant head coach is maybe if you're the special teams coordinator. Then you could have that assistant, but you don't see too many assistant head coach defensive coordinators or assistant head coach offensive coordinators. So, like you said, Jason, you don't really need that title. And basically, Anthony Lynn leaving an OC job it's pretty much a demotion on how you want to look at it. Leaving an OC job, a play calling situation for a non-play calling situation that's an assistant head coach, would be a demotion to many people. So to me, I wouldn't be too concerned next year for, say, Anthony Lynn leaving to take an OC job. It would have to be a situation that he can't pass up for his coaching career. Like if Eric Bieniemy doesn't work out in Kansas City, he could end up being the OC there next year. Like, or whatever it is. Like, I think it's got to be one of those situations to where he would leave to become an OC. So I don't think, as an assistant head coach, I don't think you really need to.
Well said, Leo. Well said.
Talk to me about the Senior Bowl. Who's one guy out there that said 49ers need to get this man?
Arnold Ebukati of Penn State.
Spell that for me. I'm kidding.
Ebikeitie.
Oh, look at him. I'm going to enter you into a spelling bee, my guy.
It was hard. I had to phonetically look up his name, but he's an edge from Penn State, has great explosion. A lot of people say his first step is his problem, but he is the perfect complement to Nick Bosa if they want to start getting back to having two dominant edges as opposed to a rotation of guys. You can keep Eric Armstead inside. He fits perfectly. If not him, unfortunately, I don't want to talk about this guy, but I believe his name is Jacob Petrie from Baylor. Jalen Petrie. Petrie, I'm sorry.
Yep, he's a
Baylor.
baller. He's a baller.
He is. I want to run off some stats real quick because he reminds me of the versatility that Kowalski has of like playing in the line and being good in coverage. And this would afford you of not having Hufanga in a position where he would be in a position to struggle based on all of his coverage skills so far, unless he takes a leap. But I'm going to run some numbers down for you. 14 games, 75 tackles, 18.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 5 turnovers forced, 2 picks, 3 forced fumbles. Now at 61, where do the 49ers lie and how does the board lie? Because right now, does Ebukati make it or does Petrie make it? But either one of those guys, 49er fans should be excited to have. And I've got some other guys later on that are offensive linemen that I was looking at. It's really hard to watch offensive line because, one, it's not skill position. It's not exactly the most exciting thing. But I'm trying to figure out traits that these guys have that will fit with the 49ers. You can't just say, oh, that guy is ripping on the line or he's doing this and doing that. Bring him in. It's can he fit in the scheme? Can he run outside zone? Can he do all of the things that Shanahan wants to do with the trickiness? I mean, for God's sakes, the man's got Trent Williams running in motion from the left side to the right side. So you better be pretty special and you better fit exactly what they want to do. So, those two guys at 61 are really intriguing. And I think one of those two would be great if the 49ers found a way to move up and secure one of them. That would be even better. But I think those guys can be instant day one starters in for this team.
Well, I'm putting something together for Jalen Petrie. All right. Get this. 712 coverage snaps. 0 touchdowns allowed, 4 interceptions. 712 coverage snaps. 0 touchdowns allowed, 4 interceptions.
Yeah, and he was playing close to the line, but then back in coverage, he was just so versatile. He's very silky in coverage. That's what I noticed. It jumped right out at me. So you don't have to, when guys are out on the field, you can kind of tell what's going to happen. I think Hufanga is great playing closer to the line. I think everybody pretty much knows that at this point, that his What he needs to work on is coverage. But here comes a guy that can be plug and play and an impact guy right away while putting Hufanga in a spot where, hey, he could be on the field with them while he's able to play downhill and play as fast as he wants to without having to worry about covering over the top. So, it was somebody that he started off a little bit slowly during the Senior Bowl week, but he gradually got better and better, as a lot of guys did, because the weather was so shitty. It was so bad. The second day was so hard to evaluate. Guys were sliding everywhere. I've never been rained on like that in my life. So it was hard to evaluate guys. That's why they moved the practice in next door. But as soon as they did that, it didn't rain that day. So thanks a lot, Senior Bowl guys. You got it backwards.
It definitely, man, I wish we would have done this schedule last year for the Senior Bowl, because you and I were there covering the game. I think we got there on like a Thursday, and there was no practice on a Friday. And
no,
the game
Fridays walk through, and they don't allow anybody in. So
yeah, so it was different for us last year. And this year, you got the whole experience. Like I said in the beginning of the show, complete FOMO watching the coverage out there. You did a great job in that. Javi as well. Hey, I just saw you a week before, so it's not that sad. Not that sad, guys. Once again, shameless plug. Please like, subscribe, comment with us. Let's get those likes up, guys. There's thousands. It's in the thousands, which is, I can't believe to say that over 1,000 of you guys actually enjoy hearing us talk. So I appreciate all of you. Let's get those likes into the thousands and see what happens with the show from there. We got a question for Jason, DL Coleman here. Jason, should the offensive line be a priority over the secondary? The right side of the line is real bad.
I don't know if it should be a priority, but there's plenty of guys that fit. So if I could throw out some guys for you, because the right side of the line is the most, I guess, it has to be figured out the most, right? We don't know if Brunskill's coming back. We don't know what's going to happen with McGlinchey. We don't know what's going to happen with Tom Compton. And the last 2 weeks with Tom Compton, unfortunately, were not good. And credit him, he did a great job. But I think it shows that the right side of this line and center, because we really don't know what's going on with Alex Mack. But the good news is at 61, I feel like they can get one of these impact guys. And then later on, if they do their due diligence and they find the right guys, they can find guys that'll fit the scheme. 2 names that I want to throw out there. Cole Strange, who was a guard from Chattanooga. He started at guard and he took some snaps at center. The 49ers desperately need to figure out a guy that's going to be there at center behind Alex Mack if this is his last year. If he comes back next year, great, because I felt like he started off a bit slow and he was great all the rest of the season. Obviously, he made the Pro Bowl. So that's one guy. And another guy is Matt Waletzko. He's offensive tackle from North Dakota, played a lot of left tackle over there. So do we know if he can switch over to right tackle? I'm not certain, but I will say this. Started off a little bit slow against the best edge rushers. I'm talking about like Jermaine Johnson was whipping guys. Mayfield from Minnesota was just whipping guys. But later on, he figured it out and he played very well in the last 2 days. Big guy, plays with technique, a lot of power, fits perfectly with the run scheme. I feel like he can get upfield, huge guy, but he's actually very agile. So those are 2 guys I feel the 49ers can target later on and still grab one of these impact guys at 61, and they can do both. So, I mean, unless there is a offensive tackle or something like that I've missed that wasn't in Mobile, and that's very possible because I haven't really gotten into everything. I'm still just trying to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row with Mobile. Then I understand I'm going at 61, but I still believe that there's a lot of depth in terms of that because of some of the guys that came along throughout the week at the Senior Bowl, like those 2 that I just mentioned.
We got another. Appreciate you for the donation here, Aguayo. Jay Aguayo. Is our running game going to change? Lynn's teams has always played pretty tough. Who's going to run our special teams?
I wouldn't say change. I would say it would just be another wrinkle because as we stated, like how much of Trey Sermon, how much of Trey Lance and Emmett Banks are all together, and one way that they're going to change the offense. So it was just realistically, I'll just say a wrinkle. And run our special teams. I don't know. Bisaccia's gone. Joe Judge just signed. I mean, they'll find somebody, but as you know, I think we have a little PTSD, and we know how important having a great special teams coordinator is. I mean, it literally cost the Green Bay Packers moving on to the NFC Championship. So those type of things can lose and win you big games. So hopefully there's a name out there that I'm missing. But, the obvious ones would have been Bisaccia, Judge, or, someone else that I'm missing. I can't come to my mind right now. But, I mean, it's up to them, and I hope they make a good hire. So, I mean, I'm going to normalize saying I don't know when I don't know as opposed to making stuff up.
No, I absolutely normalizing. I don't know is kind of one of the best answers you could give technically because you're not giving false information or false perspective. So it's literally a great answer. Someone that Javi mentioned when I shameless plug recorded with him last night during the Niners Nation Oh Hey There podcast that was released today. Um,
Go
shameless
get
plug
that.
once again.
Go get that.
Darren Rizzi of the New Orleans Saints. That is someone that Javi has been high on. Um, and we'll see if that situation happens there since they do have a new head coach. It's not Sean Payton. There was a situation back in about 2019 that Ian Rappaport was surprised that Rizzi went back. So we'll see what happens there. But that's someone that Javi likes. Saints usually do have some pretty good special teams units. Um, we'll see. That's just a name out there. I see Akash listed down a few names here: Ryan Ficken, Frank Ross, Chris Tabor. They may all be staying put there in their current situations, but I think the 49ers did need to move on from Richard Hightower, and I think it's who you're going to replace him with. It's kind of if it can't get worse, it could get better, right? That's kind of the situation we're looking at here in
It's good
terms of the
thinking.
special teams.
It's good thinking. Hope not. Good thinking though.
Yeah, it's 26th DVOA unit fits my narrative in the NFL last season. So can't get too much worse. Can't
Hey,
you know
look.
there I have 21 restricted free agents. One of those is Jordan Willis. So if you want to help the special teams unit, maybe you talk about the players that you could resign rather than the coordinator.
Yeah, and I mean, Richard Hightower did come up really big in a really big game, but yeah, we all know the importance now of a special teams coordinator. I never thought that I would have learned that lesson this year. That's one of the biggest lessons.
This is interesting that Michael commented saying Justin Reed to replace Tart. I find it interesting because of his brother, Eric Reed. Bad mouth the 49ers when he left. Oh, I'm in a contract year. They switched my position. Hey, they were trying to get you on the field, buddy. They were trying to get you on the field, man. It's not that they switch your position. It's they wanted to get you on the field, and Tart was a better safety. It is
Right.
what it is. And so I don't know if any of that feeling is going to loom over to Justin Reed to where he won't want to be with the 49ers.
The thing is, um, all these plans that we're making in the draft, we don't know if the 49ers have a plan to address them in free agency, right? Like
Right.
everybody wants to draft a corner or something like that. We don't know what they want to do, right? So right now this is the fun part in February, right? Like we're working our way into like, okay, what are the team needs? Okay, this guy can be addressed here, but we don't know what they're ultimately thinking, you know? And to Leo's point, that is a fair point. But who knows what they're thinking? Like Tyrann Mathieu out there. There's a bunch of guys out there that can like immediately step in that you won't have to groom or anything like that. That could uplift your defense a little bit. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they address the position because I'm of the mind that Tart's not coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. Luis, appreciate you big time, my guy. Appreciate you for the donation. Thank you here for joining us. Appreciate all of you guys as well for joining us once again. And if you have not liked the video, go ahead and do so because you're chilling with us, man. Just go ahead and like it. Like next time, I'm gonna be late. If you, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna go that far.
You
I'm
heard
not
him
gonna
say
go
it.
that
Yeah.
that guy say it.
Yeah.
I asked Javi this question yesterday. Is buy or sell? Is Modelo the best Mexican import beer?
It's the easiest one and the best one to find. I mean, when we were down in Mobile, that's all we were drinking. You know, like I had a Corona because that's all they had. But if I had a choice, I'm choosing Modelo.
Okay, I like it. I was brought to that question because of Luis. I saw that was from Mexico over there, so it made me want to ask it. It made me want to carry it over, and I'll tell
Well,
you what.
Dos Equis in Mexico, that hits different. Like that's not Dos Equis up here. There's something that's a little bit different, right? Like when you're in Mexico, those hit different. But if you had to ask me, I would probably say
Everything
Modelo.
hits different in Mexico. I
That's
live in
true.
San Diego, so I'm legit right next to the border. 49ers got eliminated to the playoffs, and as soon as they did, I booked my tickets to Cancun. So I'm also going to there. But I say the reason why I say everything hits different in Mexico is have you had Doritos from Mexico?
No.
Bro, it's not the same.
Well, how is it not the same?
It's not the same. It's like different seasoning or something. It's so much better. I'm telling you,
No.
you've never
But
had it?
no, I
Doritos from
haven't. But
Mexico.
what Mexico has is the glass bottle Cokes, and those are elite. And that's something that if you find it here in America, you're good with that, but it is elite down there.
So we got. Oh yeah, well I have that here in San Diego because once again we're right next to the border here. It's crazy. If you ever come to my house, when you come to my house, you could step in my front yard, look to your left, you see TJ because it's crazy lights. Like TJ looks like Vegas at the nighttime. You look to your left, you see all the lights from TJ. Then you look forward, you can see downtown San Diego. That's where I'm saying that's how close we are to Mexico. So I get a lot of those here at the local grocery stores, the bottled Coke bottles and Modelo all the way. We're getting a lot of Modelos in here. We got Pacifico.
I like that too.
We got you should come in 2022 for the Mexico game. Supposedly San Francisco airs. Hey,
Do not tell me
I'm out there.
time. Yeah,
I'm out there. Mexico City. I haven't been there. I haven't been to.
I've never been to Mexico City either. Only Cancun.
So we'll see. Yeah, we got a Modelo all day. I'll tell you one that slept on though. Estrellas Jalisco.
Okay, never had it.
Estrellas is really, really. It's sweet. It's not too sweet, obviously, because it's still a lager, still a beer, but it is good. It's good. But besides that, I've been choosing Modelo all day. Pacifico is also really good. Tecate, I don't really like Tecate.
Okay, fine.
Tecate's fine. I'm a little,
Tecate over Corona?
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just the taste. Like Tecate has a little different taste. If you give me a lime though, it's fine. Like I'll drink it with the lime. Like this past Saturday, I was actually in TJ because my lady has family there.
Keep flexing. Keep it. That's like your third one. And we should play a drinking game with either Modelo, Tecate, whatever it is. Every time Leo flexes on me about being in Mexico or I'm going here and I'm going there and I'm stuck on cold Jersey, take a drink. You're probably gonna be washed by now. 53 minutes in.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So basically, short story is like lime makes anything better because I can't stand a Coors Light. Like to me it's water, but I put lime in a Coors Light and it's drinkable. Like it's okay. It's okay.
Lime is a little bit better, but yeah, Coors Light is really bad.
Like I'm not a Dos Equis. I'm not a Tecate guy. As you see here.
Hey, pass me whatever you got.
I have those in my kitchen, dog. I have those in my kitchen, Ariel. I got the queso chips, roofless, in the kitchen right now.
I'm tired of
you. Know what it is, Victoria's. But see, I need to drink more Victoria's. You can't go wrong. My wife's name is Victoria, so I'm kind of I'm sleeping on the whole Victoria right now. It's just I have got to flip a Victoria's Secret bill every single month. So now seeing Victoria again, it's just like I don't know if I want to do all that.
How do we get here?
Drink no beer, drink good beer, no lime IPAs. That's my go-to.
That's my go-to. Dr. Steven, own him.
That's my go-to is IPAs. Obviously, you got to be a crazy person if you're going to put a lime in an IPA. So that's my go-to. But the thing is, I'm like 208 now. I can't really be drinking the IPAs at the level I am. So I got to slow it down a little bit. Yep. Yeah, Jorge knows what he's talking about.
Hell yeah.
So what's Isaac? I ain't flexing, man. There's no reason to flex.
Isaac, own him, bro. He just flexing on me.
Jay was at the NFC or the game that we don't talk about 2 weeks ago. He was at the Senior Bowl. The man interviewed the player of the game of the Senior Bowl right there in the press seat. I ain't got nothing to flex.
Take that. Now who's a podcaster? Get owned.
I'm just trying to show that, I deserve to be on the same screen as this guy. That's all I'm doing. I'm not flexing. I'm just trying to show my righteous.
I trade one of those things to go to Mexico, though, so stop it. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Thank you, Leo.
Yeah, of course, man. I legit shed a tear like, oh my God, this is my guy. Like, I've only had this in Mobile, Alabama. I've never even heard about it before that.
Javi was getting to the Yingling, man. It's a Pennsylvania beer.
Yeah, I've never even heard about it before, which is wild.
East Coast thing, man.
East Coast, that's why we link together because now we're able to, cross paths and it just makes everything good. It's kind of like one of those Cubano sandwiches, tortas, when you just put everything in together, but somehow it works. Somehow it's good. That's not Mexican food. That's Cuban, ain't it?
Oh no, but you said something else after that. I'm sorry. You're right.
Torta. It's just sandwich.
I hate you.
Hey, any last thoughts? Voodoo Ranger IPAC. We're going down a dark tunnel.
No,
Anytime you talk beer,
I've got to get really ready for bed. But shout out to everybody that's in here. Make sure that you like, subscribe to both the channels, hit that notification bell. We're gonna figure it out during the week. What's going on. Obviously, the 49ers centric stuff is gonna slow down because the 49ers chose not to play in this silly game that nobody cares about on Sunday. So I mean, it kind of just did us a favor more than anything.
also, you see our handles. Whether you're on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram there. I'm sure you could find Jason on Instagram pretty easily. Just type in Apontes and be the first one there. He's the most famous Aponte on Instagram.
I don't know
So,
about that.
so you could also DM us questions, and we'll go ahead and answer those DMs here during the show. If you want to get yours specifically ahead of the time, just in case if you're not able to show up live, go ahead and ask us then, and we'll definitely more than likely go ahead and answer those shows for you. Appreciate all of you guys. Lastly, here we'll end it. Appreciate the donation. Jason made me want to get a K1 jersey with the jean outfit and Tim's.
Told you,
Yeah,
man. You see a northerner, you see a northerner with a Yankee fitted, a jean jacket, a hoodie under, or jeans under and then construction Air Force Ones. You already know. I know what type of time K1's on, bro. I knew it. I knew he was getting a pick in that game. He looked ready to go.
Had to.
Patterson, baby.
He had all the East Coast vibes in him. It was getting done. It was a wrap.
Aggressively Northern New Jersey. That's the way that I would describe that fit right there. Aggressively Northern New Jersey. I knew what K1 was ready to do. He was ready to work.
Absolutely. So once again, if you guys want to get your questions ahead of the show next time, or if you can't make it live but you want to ask a question, go ahead and hit us in the inbox here. You see Jason's handle, you see my handle. Once again, type in Aponte on Instagram and you'll be able to find them there. Or you could go in my followers on Instagram and type in Aponte. You'll find them right there as well. So appreciate all of you guys. We'll see you next week. Hit that like, subscribe. Talk to you.